Hi, this is Daniela, and welcome to Bestie Life, the podcast, where we help you stop burnout now. If you're tired of running on empty, juggling all the things, and wondering when your life is supposed to feel better, you're in the right place. This show is your go-to space for real talk and practical strategies to help you protect your energy, create balance, and actually enjoy the life you're working so hard for. You'll get a mix of solo episodes and honest conversations with guests. My goal is to help you feel less alone, more empowered, and way more in control of your time and energy and well-being. So let's get into it. Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, the podcast. And today I'm so excited to dive into this conversation with Kathi Burns. She is a board certified professional organizer, image consultant, author, and speaker. Her mission of what she's been practicing over the last 20 years has been to help clients move from overwhelmed, indecisive, and disorganized to having clear automated systems that will not only help generate more income, but I think just create some peace in your life, some ease, some breathing room. We were just talking before we started to record about that whole mental clutter, physical clutter connection, but I'm so excited to dive in. But can you share with us a little bit more of your story, Kathi?
Oh, sure. I'll try to make it a short synopsis. So basically, I discovered a long, long time ago that stuff isn't really relevant in our life. And a long time ago, I was a licensed U.S. Coast Guard captain. I wanted to get paid to sail. So I delivered yachts. And I remember being out in the middle of the Gulf Stream in the middle of the night, watching the moon and actually watching the satellite go over, thinking it was a moon at the time. Little did I know. Anyhow, I was thinking back on everything in my apartment and how none of it was really relevant. And so I would get back to shore and I would purge. After that, I became a travel writer and I was living out of a suitcase 42 weeks a year. Again, realizing that what I had was important and what was back in the apartment wasn't that important. So I'd purge. Flash forward a few years later, I was reinventing myself and I met a woman. I moved out to San Diego and I met a woman who I had a year off to reinvent myself. She did too, ironically, at the same time, which was, that's the universe, right? And she was on a healing journey. And we became really good friends. I went to her house and I'm like, girlfriend, you cannot heal with all this stuff in your environment. You need to really clear out some stuff. So I started helping her purge and it was fun. And because I've been doing it anyhow. And she goes, you know what? You should be a professional organizer. You're really good at this. And I'm like, what the heck is that? So here I am 20 years later. I help people clear their clutter so that they can live life more fully. And clearing their clutter, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, in a bit, has a lot more to do with just the stuff, right? It's not really about the stuff at all.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know if we had talked about this before, but I'm a sailor as well. And so definitely it's so interesting how I can go from living on such a tiny space with very few things and being so happy to then still like not being able to totally shut that off or, like shift when I get back home to having that same kind of peace with less. Do you see that with a lot of your clients?
Absolutely. In fact, a lot of my clients are really fearful of all the space that they create.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, what am I going to do? I remember one client specifically, it was a gentleman, and he goes, what am I going to do with all this time now? He was like literally kind of a little bit freaked out. But then on the inverse, I have another client who she insisted on always having one empty drawer in her bathroom. And it was sacred and it was always going to be empty from here on out. And because it gave her breathing room. And if she felt like she was a little bit overwhelmed or stressed, she would go into her bathroom, sit down on the floor, open up that drawer and see space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you said, it's not even always about the physical stuff, even though sometimes it is. And I know we'll talk about that, but a lot of times it's the emotional connection. And I don't know if you want to talk about that. I know sometimes like when I try and get rid of stuff, I either feel guilt because of who it came from. Like I feel like I owe it to them to own it forever. Mm-hmm. Guilt because I spent money on it. And I feel like, again, I need to get this value somehow in return from it. What else do you see come up with people?
A lot of it is guilt. So any pile in your life represents one of three things. Any pile of stuff that you unidentified, right? Which is generally all the excess stuff. It's procrastination, indecision, or avoidance. So you know what you want to do with it, but you're just not doing it. You have no idea what to do with it, or you simply don't even want to deal with it at all, and you put it in the closet. So that leads us into feelings of guilt of things left undone, right? And I'm with you on that, Danielle. A lot of my clients will say, well, I have to keep this because mom had it for 30 years. And so I give all my clients permission to let go. And the way I look at it is to move your good forward into the world, right? So get rid of the guilt. And if you're not using it, you should actually feel guilty for keeping it, because there's other people that would benefit from it. Donate it to a charity, let someone else who couldn't afford it brand new, get it for less money and be able to implement it in their life. Because if they buy it, they need it and they want it, right?
Yeah.
And it's just sitting there molding, in our closet or whatever, like our china, finally got rid of the china. I didn't like it. We think we like it when we get married. We get all these sets and then it's like, oh no, I don't think I want to use it. I don't even like it anymore. So move it forward, right? Move your good out into the world, because I truly believe that everything that you give, you get back at times 10, always.
No, I love that mindset shift. That part is huge because you're not changing the value of anything. You're changing how you're thinking about it. And that allows you to then take the action and move forward. What would you say to the what if people? And I have some of these people in my life and I love them dearly, but they hang on to stuff because, well, what if I need blah, blah, blah,
Right.
How do we approach that? And what's kind of the thought behind it?
That's a big one. And really what it comes down to is they're not being present. Okay, because they don't need it now. One of my colleagues wrote the book, but I might need it someday. And the idea is, if you don't need it now and you might need it later, that's not a good reason to keep it, because you can always get another one. You can borrow it, or you can buy it used, or you can buy a new or whatever. But the likelihood, if you haven't used it for a year or so, is you're not going to need it. Now, some of my clients, Daniela, will say, well, I'm the person that has the lawnmower that everybody can borrow. And I'm like, well, do you have a gardener? Yes. I'm like, why do you have a lawnmower? My neighbor might need it. It's like, if your neighbor comes to borrow it, just give it to them, right? Stop being the warehouse and the storage unit for all the other people. I think people do it because they want to feel useful, maybe, they want to be the resource, but at the same time, they're encumbering themselves with keeping all the stuff that they don't ever use. And then that's clutter. That's, if you don't use it, need it, or love it, it's clutter.
Yeah.
Some things that you don't use, but you love, that would not be clutter, but if you don't use it and you don't need it and you don't love it, it is clutter. And it's going to zap energy from your life, actually, from your head, from your space, from the whole shebang.
Right. Now, what about when it comes to other people's clutter in your space, whether it's your partner, your spouse, your kids that have even moved out of the house, but still don't have their own, place to store all the stuff that they've left at your house?
That is a common phenomenon. I just spoke with someone about that just this morning. One of my clients, she inherited all three of her kids' stuff is all in a storage unit. She's paying $400 a month for her stuff. That's just silly, right? So how do we say this? Okay, so the strategy that we're using with them, they're all coming for Thanksgiving. I'm glad she called me now. So we're going to get everything out of storage. They're going to get to go through it, and they're going to determine what's useful or not useful, what they're going to be able to take home or not take home. If they're not going to be able to take it home because they still aren't ready, they're going to start paying for storage. They're going to start helping pay for the storage. That will give them a lot more clarity on what's important to them or not. Oftentimes parents become the storage unit for all their kids' stuff. And it's just easy. It's easy for the kids. Kids don't have any ramifications. No, I don't need them. Mom, just hold on to it.
Right. All their old yearbooks, everything all piled up.
And when it comes to their decision that they have to actually take it home, you'd be surprised how quickly they let go of things.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with it either.
Now, there's a difference, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, between decluttering and organizing. Even though they go hand in hand in a lot of cases, what we've been talking about definitely is about eliminating things. But now when it comes to the things you have left, I was reading this article once and they talked about the importance of organizing, because if you're not organized, it can be just as bad as having too many things, because maybe you can't find stuff. And so then you rebuy it and you end up with like 4 of the same thing and that type of thing. Can you talk a little bit about how important organizing is in this process of decluttering as well?
Yeah, that's such a good point right there. And you're right, Danielle. And it always starts with decluttering, because you have to, when you get organized, like organizing 101, you get like with like. So you group all the like things together. Then you see, oh, I have 4 sets of measuring cups, right? It's like, what do I do with 4 sets of measuring cups? Unless I'm like a massive baker, right? So you gather and then you group, and then you sort and start decluttering. But the end of it is you have to store, and that's where organizing comes into play. So you set up zones within your house for different things, and you have to have a zone where these things are going to live, so to speak. And if there's a zone where they can live, the most important thing is that it makes sense to the family. Because what I do as an organizer, there's no system that's the same. Everybody thinks differently about how they use their space and what they use in their space. Some people are bakers, some people don't bake, some people are preppers, some people never prep, some people do lunch, some people don't do, when it comes to like kitchen, that's just an example. So you figure out what you need in your space and where it makes the most sense for it to live, right? Then once you have that living space where it's going to stay its whole life, then you have to have a yard around that. Because let's face it, you have your coffee cup cupboard, and if you can't fit another coffee cup in, then as soon as you get another one, the system breaks. So that's where I see a lot of downfall happens with people who don't leave that yard around their organization. But basically it all comes down to zones. So if you go back to the kitchen idea, so I have a baker lady, she loves to bake. So she needs a baking zone. Everything needs to be put in that zone that allows her to bake. Even like, the flours, the sugars, the measuring cups, the bowls, the mixer, all that good stuff. Other people don't bake at all, but they have to get their kids out to school every day at lunch. So they set up a lunch zone. And literally the lunch zone is right by the fridge, and actually in the fridge, where they can pull out everything it takes to make a sandwich and put it back in again. That's an idea of an organizational strategy. A prep zone, basically you just need to have an agreement with yourself about where these things are going to live and how much there is. Mm-hmm. And to determine how much there is of each of those zones, you look at the space that you're dealing with. When I moved into this house, I had this little skinny cupboard. You know what I'm talking about, the skinniest cupboard you can think in your kitchen. Mm-hmm. One shelf was going to be where my coffee cups were going to live. So that helped me make a decision on how many coffee cups is Kathi going to have in her house, right? If they don't fit in there, I had to ditch them. So, so that's just, basics of how to think about getting organized. But you're so right that if you're not organized and you don't have like with like stored together, it could be like with like, or it could be like with purpose, like take, for instance, the baking zone or whatever, or the prep zone. You end up buying duplicates and you end up losing money. And
absolutely. Yeah. And wasting time trying to find things. And that time piece is so critical when it comes to, what we're trying to create. Time is more valuable than money in so many ways.
It's the only thing we can't get back. Time is the only limited limit to our essence, actually.
Yes, absolutely. So at the time of this airing, it's spring. A lot of people are thinking like spring cleaning. We get in these modes and these moods like, all right, I'm going in, I'm overhauling everything. And definitely we found that when we try and do too many great things at once, we end up doing none of them, whether it's a workout routine, whether it's an organization strategy, whether it's weight loss, all those kind of things, like we can't just do everything at once. We have to start somewhere. We have to start small. And so when you're working with someone, what would be that first step? If you're just listening to Kathi for the first time right now, one takeaway, what would be the one thing they should do first?
as you're saying that, I'm saying, start small, start small. So what I always tell everybody, if you're not used to getting organized and you're not used to decluttering and you've never done it and you're like overflowing, start with your sock drawer.
Okay.
Because it's a limited amount of space. Most people don't have any emotional juice around their socks. I've met one person in 20 years who did. No, two, because they love their socks. But generally, there's no connection. So start with your sock drawer because it's a contained, confined amount of space and there's no emotional charge. Make sure that you decide for yourself in advance how much space should these socks take up. How are they going to be divided? Basically it's the amount of socks, right? And this one drawer, is it two drawers? How many socks does a girl need, right? Make a decision with yourself, then purge. And once you've done that and you look at your drawer and you're like, ooh, yeah, I did a good job. Then you have more energy to jump into the harder thing.
Right.
So start small. Don't start with your junk drawer. That's the worst possible place to start. That's the most crazy place to start. Start with something that's doable. And then after you have that win, you'll be really empowered to keep going.
Yeah. I've also heard, to sometimes just set a timer as well. Like I'm one of those people, sometimes if I think I've got so much time, I can end up going down the rabbit hole of, I start cleaning one thing and then I start looking through it and, I move on to this to put it away somewhere. And now I'm in another room and I'm doing these kind of things. And next thing I know, I've lost hours and haven't actually done anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. Timer's not a bad idea. I use the hex cube timer a lot for my clients. It's 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, and you just turn it over and I'm going to work for 15 minutes. And the Pomodoro technique is you work for 15, you take 5 minutes as a reward. You go have a cup of tea or whatever, right? Or whatever it's going to be for you. But definitely a timer helps. And also so every space affects every other space. And I always say a small, what seems to be an insignificant change leads to larger than life results. So just like you said, Danielle, you can start on your socks, but then you're like, oh my God, what is this thing doing in here? It needs to be over there. And you end up in another room, right? And then you're in the other room and you've lost track of your original concept. So when you do start clearing your clutter, it always helps to have an outbound basket with you. Obviously donations and trash, but have a box that's out to other places, because you're going to find weird things in a sock drawer that should be in a different room or somewhere else completely, and just put it in that box. Then before you finish, you take that box and you deliver it to all the other places that the things in that box need to go. That way you don't get sidetracked.
That's a great strategy. I definitely need to use that one.
Yeah, I like to use a laundry basket. A laundry basket is awesome for things that go other places, right? And then your job's not done till you empty the laundry basket and put things back to at least the zone that they're supposed to be in.
Right. As well as from an organization standpoint, I've heard of, like just keeping a basket on the stairs so that you're collecting all the things that need to go up and only making maybe one trip then at the end of the day of taking all those things back upstairs.
Absolutely. I do that every day. I have a coffee cup and a bowl of soup sitting at the top of my stairs right now. Need to go down.
So when it comes to all these different strategies, and a lot of times with my guests, I always ask, what are they most grateful for? Because I think grateful is an underutilized form of self-care. But in this situation, I almost kind of want to ask, what would you say has been your favorite kind of strategy that you use on a day-to-day basis when it comes to keeping yourself organized, decluttered on a regular basis?
My key holder. Oh my God. My key holder is the bomb. And actually a girlfriend gave it to me way before I was a professional organizer, because I was continually losing my keys. And so it's moved to 3 houses so far. It's right by the front door. I walk in, I put my keys there. I never lose my key. I've never lost my keys again since that. So that's like my number one favorite thing. I love it.
That's awesome. Now you've also got books, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the books that people could find if they wanted to learn a little bit more?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if you're in business, my How to Master Your Muck, Get Organized, Add Space to Your Life, Live Your Purpose is all about systems in your business. If you're a small business owner, it talks all about the things you need to do as an entrepreneur. If you're interested in organizing your home, I have Home Organization, the Smart Guide, Make Room for Yourself in Your Home. And that goes from the front door to the back door and every area in between and helps you declutter it. Now, there are 2 online courses that go with each of those books. So if you're really serious about wanting to get your home organized, you could go to Home Organizing Made Simple, buy the course, and literally I lead you. The very first module is all about your mind. Like, why are you here? Why do you have so much stuff? How are you going to shift your attention and start cluttering? And then literally I go through every single space in your house, including attics and basements, which we don't have basements here in San Diego, but I did cover that.
Okay.
So so every area of your house, there's worksheets, there's video tutorials, everything you need to just keep going and keep the momentum. And it's a go at your own pace, a DIY type of course.
Awesome. And I know you shared that there's going to be a special gift for my listeners. Can you tell them what that is?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it's 6 steps to organize your amazing life. So it basically just starts with mindset and starts with small practices that you can do to get your life better organized. And so, that's a free download. It's a value. I sell it for like $19.99, but for you guys, it's free. So check it out. And just, 6 steps, 6 little steps that will start you on your path.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All the links to find Kathi, to work with Kathi, will be live in the show notes below. So thank you so much, Kathi, for sharing your insights, your organization strategies, and just all the insights.
Oh, you're very welcome. I really appreciate being a guest on the podcast. And I wish all of you out there good luck decluttering and getting organized.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you got something out of this episode that really made you feel seen, supported, or just a little bit more grounded. If you have any questions or thoughts, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're up for it, please leave me a 5-star review. That will help more people find the show and join this community. I'll leave you with 2 of my favorite quotes. Alone we may be strong, but together we're stronger. And when we support each other, incredible things happen. So let's keep showing up for ourselves and each other, and maybe even have some fun while we're at it. I'll talk to you soon.